Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
You know, we did this thing earlier this week where there's these online little memes where it's like, tell me you're from Boston without telling me you're from Boston. Tell me, you're married without telling me you're married. So So when I did the thing, tell me you're from Boston, it was hard for me to think of something. So what particular thing would identify me as being from Boston without actually coming out and saying it? Aside from accent, I could just do accent. But it would the one I was thinking of, the one I mentioned was the hot dog is properly served in a split top roll with mustard and ketchup and relish. I'm not sure that's actually accurate, but I'm going to go. I mean, the split top roll is totally
split top roll thing. Is definitely. Well, is it Boston specific or is it New England?
Oh, it's a New England thing. See, that's the trick. So I was trying to think of what would be a very Boston thing, and I'm trying to I could say Red Sox or something, you know what I mean? But that would be obvious. So I could just do the accent. Tell me you're from Austin. Tell me you're from Texas, without telling me you're from Texas.
You're putting me on the spot here.
Our state is the best state ever, and no other state is like it. In fact, our state was once its own country.
If the shoe fits, wear
it. Although I heard someone talk about, if you think Texas is bad about state pride, Maryland is worse.
I saw that this week.
Yeah.
I got to be skeptical. Can anybody really be more state prideful than Texans?
State obnoxious?
Seriously?
New Yorkers, maybe a little bit.
But New Yorkers are not.
That's New York City is all its own. People outside the city are not nearly as obnoxious about it.
But they're obnoxious in a different sort of way. Like
they're just attitude.
It's attitude, but It's not the same. My place is better. I mean, they think it's better, but it's I don't know. It's different.
Yes. Well, I actually have to say that Maryland, I kind of agree. They give Texas a run for their money with the flags, just everything. It's funny. There's a very Maryland thing, and maybe it's being in between DC and Philly and New Jersey there somewhere. I wonder. Anyway, that's totally not what we were going to talk about.
No, I didn't know where that came from. Out of left field.
Whenever we start the show, when I read the intro, my brain starts just germinating things.
See, I was thinking when you were reading the intro, our whole pirates and penguins thing. Tonight at dinner, Isabella was saying that on one of her Zoom classes, some boy had some sort of pirate themed background behind him, and she said something about how piratical he was and how well it fit him or something, and he took extreme offense. And I told her she should just say, well, in my family, pirates are good.
Yeah, we're we believe it. We're Sumparato. I am a pirate. Yes, I know. Pirates are coming up again in this episode, by the way.
Are they?
Yeah, but we'll get there. Yeah. I don't actually. I must have zoned out during that part of dinner because I missed that. I thought you were going to talk about her saying it doesn't offend her when people call her weird.
This was sort of part of that, I think.
Okay, yeah.
The weird, I think, came up is...
She said she didn't like something or did like something, and someone said, oh, you're weird.
Right. I think we were talking generally about, people's Zoom classroom.
Be proud of being weird. That's all I'm saying.
It's my hometown's motto.
Austin.
Keep Austin weird.
Yeah, well, doing a good job. So, another thing that happened tonight was I had to explain how broadcast television works to the children.
Right.
So it's specifically Sophie, the teenager. And it's because all they know is streaming. And so I'm trying to explain how there was a time when you watch TV, the show would air, and if you missed it, you missed it.
She was like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Why would you do it like that?
I'm like, because that's all we had. That's all. There was no server. It was a dumb system. You had a radio transmitter on one side and a radio antenna receiver on the other side, and it transmitted a television signal and got shown on the screen. It was, and then I had to explain VCRs and DVRs and cable, and all very basic. but they're like, I think I blew her mind a little bit on that one. Like, just yeah,
definitely.
So, because they didn't know what a rerun was.
Why would you do right? That was what brought it up. Was why would you do that?
I love that teenager thing. Why would you do that? Like, of course, obviously you shouldn't do it that way. So why would you? The people in the past didn't have what you have, my dear. They didn't have the advantages that you have. Oh man, that was funny.
It was quite good.
Quite amusing. So earlier this week, you were having a text conversation with your family.
I was.
I think you guys were talking about. Everyone was talking about their vaccinations.
Yes, my sister is now fully vaccinated, and so are my parents, and my brother and sister-in-law are going to be vaccinated like soon. Texas is opening things up to everybody.
They have an appointment. I guess,
they have an appointment.
Yeah.
And so my sister-in-law said that they were going to go to Glacier National Park this summer, and she's so very excited. To have travel plans. Like my brother and sister-in-law love to travel.
And they've basically been quarantined, locked down for a whole year.
Yeah. So they're very excited. And I said, I would love to take the kids to Glacier National Park sometime. That my dad took us there several times when we were kids. And it's fond family memories. And so my dad texted me like within the half hour and said, you should plan to take the kids to Glacier. I'll help pay for it if money's the problem. Actually, he didn't even say if the money's the problem. I'll help pay for it.
Yes. Because money definitely is the problem.
Right. He knows.
Yeah.
And so, my dad's very generous, and he really wants my kids to have the same, his grandkids to have the same experiences that we had. He really went out of his way to make sure we got to travel when we were kids. When traveling was often
in a van. Driving long distances.
My dad was a hero because he drove such long distances, often solo because my mom would frequently stay home. And he would drive the four of us kids in the big van and take us camping all by himself in Colorado and Wyoming and Montana.
I mean, because your youngest, was like a baby when you.
The first time my dad took us camping in Colorado, my youngest brother was 2, and I was 12, maybe 13.
I'm astonished. Like, I would never do that.
My dad took the four of us kids camping all by himself for like 2 weeks in Colorado. And yeah, I remember like my youngest brother was still in diapers, and I was having to help change his diapers. And I was also the navigator. Like, my dad handed me the AAA camping guide for Colorado and said, here, find us a campsite, Melanie.
Considering how well you do with navigating now with a GPS in your hand, like on your phone, I'm kind of surprised you got where you were going.
I actually was, I think, better at maps and things when I was younger because I didn't have mom brain from having 5 kids yet.
Yes. I'm certain that's my fault. So
it's all your fault.
So as soon as your dad said that, me being me, within 24 hours, I had a notebook in Evernote set up with links to various things.
Right.
And I had Google Maps open, and I was plotting out how long it would take and where we would stop on the way out and on the way back. Basically, I think I figured it out. It's a 3-week trip. Yeah. A week out, a week there, a week back. So I don't know. We'll have to keep thinking about this and consider whether this is even possible. I mean, just even from a SQPN perspective, it would take a huge amount of planning. It would definitely not be this summer. It would be like 2022 if we were to pull this off.
That's what I told Dad. I said, yeah, this is not going to happen soon. Maybe
next year. Yeah,
but I definitely want to take the kids.
I would love to go. And the great thing is as we learned with the Kentucky trip, half the fun is the people you see on the way out, because we have friends and family spread out all over this country. I was like, Father Corey, who I do Secrets of Star Trek and Secrets of Technology and Secrets of Doctor Who with, he lives on the way to Glacier. For like, he's literally like, we drive by his town, through his town on the way to Glacier. So we would totally get to see him. Father Andrew's in Wyoming, and he and I were talking, and there might be a way for us to connect up on the way back. And then you've got family in Chicago, and just that would be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the Kentucky trip. I liked the going and coming back. I liked the driving through our country. Now that was, what was that, 11 days?
Something.
So it was something like that. This would be more than twice that.
Yeah.
So that's a little concerning, but
it's a little daunting.
Yeah, it's a little daunting. And I don't think we could camp the whole time. We maybe camp out there, but like if we're driving, and then this is like 10-hour days, like 7, 8, 9, 10-hour, some of these days that I was looking at driving, and I'm like I can't drive 10 hours and then set up a campsite and then break it down in the morning and go, we'd have to get some hotels and stay with people and that sort of thing. But that said, I'm kind of excited by it. So it would be really cool. So it'd be a lot of fun, and we take some great videos. It would be epic vacation video.
It would be epic. It's kind of cool, because it would be especially cool for me because although I've been to these places before, like we drove from Texas, and so this would be seeing a whole part of the country that I've never seen.
Oh, same here.
Like I've never been to Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, like that part of the upper Midwest.
Yeah, North Dakota, South Dakota. Oh,
I've been to South Dakota.
So I haven't been to any of those places. I've been to Chicago. I flew into Chicago.
Yeah, I've been to Chicago.
But yeah, who hasn't? If you've flown anywhere in this country, you've been through Chicago.
I've got family in Chicago because my dad grew up in Illinois. So,
and I went to a convention in Chicago once, which was awesome. I like Chicago, but I've never been to like Wisconsin, Minnesota, North or South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana. Like I've never been in any there. I've been to Colorado, and that's about it. And I've been to Kansas City area. But most of the rest of my travels have been more on the edges. I've been to most of the southern states.
I've been to, I think, most of the states west of the Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. I've been to California, and I've been to Arizona. And technically I've been to Nevada, but I went to Bullhead City, which was like literally just over the border. Well, Bullhead City is Arizona, but what was the one just over the Colorado River? There was a town just over the Colorado River from Bullhead City that we went to for breakfast, and that's technically I've been to Nevada. But yeah, I've been to Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida several times, driven through North and South Carolina, been to Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee now, so that I've crossed those off. Definitely Virginia. West Virginia, definitely. So I think I pretty much hit all the southern states. Did I miss any? Did I miss Arkansas? I haven't been to Arkansas or Oklahoma.
Oh, see, I've been to both of those.
Yeah, so those are on the list. Future. Anyway, so it's exciting. I'm kind of excited about that, especially after like a whole year of like lockdown and all that sort of stuff. I think a lot of people are kind of making big plans for future travel.
Yes. Which
is why I think this summer would also probably be tricky, because I think a lot of people are raring to get out of the gate this summer.
Right.
As soon as they can. But I think it's the lockdowns are still going to be in some places. I think it would be too tricky. So I'm happy to push it off. So the other thing happening this week is some Scout stuff, lots of Scout stuff going on. We had our Pinewood Derby workshop here at our house. We had to host it in the backyard. And Dan, the Cub Master, brought his tools, and we cut a bunch of pine blocks into varying shapes, and the kids ran around and had fun. And Dan is so good because he's like, hey, what other Webelos metals can we knock off while we're doing this? Or anything that has to do with tools? I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. Okay, let me look it up. Yeah, there's this one. We could talk about different tools and safety. It's like, all right, let's do that. And this will be the carpentry project. They're cutting up the cars and they're sanding them and they're putting them together. I'm like, okay. So like he's just so good that he thought of that. Hey, let's knock off another metal and we get that done. So that was good. And then Lucy had a den meeting in person, which was nice, at her den leader's house, who apparently built a batting cage in his basement.
In his basement.
So he's got a custom built house. He built the house, and he's got tall basement, like 10-foot ceilings in his basement.
Wow.
But because it's just the way that the land sloped, he could either have a 6-foot ceiling or a 10-foot ceiling. So it costs like an extra $200 in materials just to a 10-foot ceiling. And so they did. And he's got the nets set up so that you can hit the ball into the net. And so Lucy, who's never swung a bat at a ball in her life, she got to swing at the ball in the tee, and she was getting some good cuts at it. And then there was a few where he'd toss the ball up and she'd hit it, and that was fun. And then he had a basketball net in the basement, like a basketball hoop, and she threw that a few times, got it in. It was once or twice, I think. It was good. So she had fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was very cute. Like, I think she always surprises people. Like, one of the other moms was like, "Oh, she's so cute. She's so small and cute. I bet she's just the happiest, the sweetest little thing all the time." And I'm like, don't get me wrong, she is a good kid, but she may be small, but she is fierce. she doesn't take nothing from nobody. I mean, she's a happy, smiley kid, like most, but she also is no shrinking violet.
Yeah. And then the big girls this week,
on Saturday,
yesterday, had a town forest cleanup day.
Yeah, trail maintenance.
So they went out and hacked away and moved logs and hacked away greenbriers, and it was good because that was a trail that we had hiked actually last summer, and it was very overgrown, and we almost turned back a couple of times because it was really bad shape.
Yeah. So
nice that they could contribute to.
Yeah, her troop needed some community service hours, so they put that in. That was good. Didn't take as long. You dropped them off and then picked them up because I was recording podcasts. But
yeah, they were supposed to be there till noon, and they ended up actually calling at 11.
Yeah, only took a couple hours to clear it. Knowing that those two, at least, they probably got right at it and cleared stuff out. What was it that Adam said about Sophie with the loppers?
She didn't kill anybody, but she was hacking at those bushes.
she went at it with a vengeance. So,
yeah. But we had a short conversation when I dropped them off about not hiding any bodies in the town forest.
Oh yes, because Adam knows where they're all buried. I think that's not figurative. So, so the other thing that happened this week is we finally got a date set for Lucy's first communion and first reconciliation. I've been working on that. All our kids, we've done formation for first communion ourselves. None of them have participated in parish faith formation, just for various reasons, but mostly because we just felt like we could do it ourselves. We were already doing it. I mean, they don't need a formal class in order to learn about the Eucharist, and we do this just as part of our family life.
Part of our family life and homeschool.
In homeschool, right. And I have a degree in theology. I worked in parish ministry. I mean, I know how to do this stuff. It's not like it's new. And you've taught religious ed at that level.
Right.
And what we've both have seen of, not that our current parish, I'm not judging our current parish on their faith formation, but we've seen faith formation in different places that was like, our kids would be bored if they had to sit through it. So I contacted the religious education.
And partly it's just sort of logistics, like getting out midweek to go all the way to church.
Right. Another thing to have to get out and go to. Yeah, that would have been more hassle. So I contacted the parish, talked to the religious ed director. She was actually kind of excited when she found out that I have a degree in theology, and so she wants me to, once I can do this, wants me to participate in some parent events to talk about faith formation for their kids, having a faith-filled home sort of thing. And then eventually she's said she would let the pastor know, Father Mike. And so I emailed Father Mike, and he said, sure. And we set a date for the Feast of the Holy Trinity, which is good.
Very nice.
And also he's like, "Are you sure you don't want to do it with all the other kids and we're kind of like, no,
yeah.
like I kind of want to avoid the madhouse, but also I just like the symbolism of at our parish Sunday mass that we always go to.
Yeah. I have to say I have a long trend of bucking the communal first communion. It goes all the way back to when I was in first grade and I made my first communion. I went to Catholic school and I had no interest in the first communion with my classmates. And I asked my parents if I could do it separately, just at the regular Sunday mass. That way I could sit with my family. Whereas the way that my parish did it at that point was all the kids who were making the first communion sat together.
Right.
And they didn't sit with their families. So my first communion was just at a regular Sunday mass. And I didn't even wear like a white dress. I mean, my dress was like not a first communion dress. It was an off the rack dress that was white with like flowers all over it and yellow ribbons and stuff. It did not look like a first communion dress. I was sort of a rebel, I guess.
Yeah.
And we brought up the gifts, and it was just really nice. I enjoyed it, and it's been kind of nice to have the similar thing with our kids.
Yeah. So and then so Father said, okay, so you can do it at the Sunday mass on the Feast of the Holy Trinity at your parish, and we'll do the first confession on that Friday, and we'll be good. We'll be ready to go. So that was good. And he said, and incidentally, he says in the same email, I've been meaning to give you a call because I need servers for Holy Thursday Mass, and I was thinking about Isabella and would she want to help? Which is really cool because for the past year, the kids have not been able to be altar servers because of the lockdown stuff. That's just not been allowed. There's been an altar server at the masses, but she's older.
Yeah, she's a lot older.
I mean, she might be like a college age.
I think something.
Like she's an adult. She's not a kid. So they're able to have the kids serve at the mass, and he was thinking he wanted Bella to come, which I thought was a nice compliment. And so she's going to serve at the Holy Thursday. I don't think the rest of us are going to be able to go. So because everything is still scheduled, and limited. But also, it's supposed to be an outdoor mass. That's what he's scheduling for, but it's supposed to rain, and the rain plan is that they're going to put it indoors, and then it's first come, first serve for the seating with the limited seating. So I think we just avoid that. Have you take her. We decided Melanie would take Bella and go to the mass, and I will stay here with the other kids. And we've done that before, split the Triduum stuff.
We I don't know if we've ever taken all 5 kids to all Triduum services.
We've generally in the recent years all made it to Good Friday, and of course we go to Easter, but I think the most recent years that we've been able to go Holy Thursday, it's either me taking the 2 older girls or you taking the 2 older girls.
Right.
But it's been a while since we've gone to the Holy Thursday at this point, because I don't think we went the year before last year.
I don't remember.
And nobody went last year. So that's nice though that he was thinking of her and he wanted her to be there. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, we'll talk more about Palm Sunday in a minute because there's lots to say about that. But I think that's all of the what we've been doing sorts of stuff. So on the cooking front, we've been doing a lot more grilling. The weather has allowed more grilling some steak, grilling some pork chops, hamburgers and hot dogs, Italian sausage. I mean, I think actually this week, out of the last 7 days, we've grilled 4 meals.
Sausages, steaks, pork chops. What was the 4?
Steak,
sausage, pork chop.
Hamburgers and hot dogs.
Okay, 4.
Yeah. Right. So 4, we've grilled 4 days out of 7. So that's pretty good. And today we couldn't grill because it was pouring rain. But today I made chicken noodle soup, which I think was pretty good. It could have been better. I made some mistakes, but basically
it was pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't have enough of our stock, so I had to use bouillon, which worked out okay. It's not as good as regular stock. That's for sure. But sautéed up some chicken. I cut up the chicken. Kind of small. I wanted it to be small to cook more quickly. I cooked it just till it was turned color, but not cooked all the way through. Took it out, cooked the onions and celery, added the carrots, and I used some red bell pepper, and cooked those up. Added some garlic, and thyme, put in the chicken back in, added the stock and the bouillon, and let that simmer for a while. Brought to a boil, let it simmer. Did I say I added thyme? I added thyme, and then added in the egg noodles, which I put too many egg noodles in. That was my mistake. I didn't put enough. The ratio to the amount of liquid was off, and so it was not very brothy in the end.
It was a very, very thick soup.
It was very, dryish soup and wet salad. So soup is just wet salad, or salad is just dry soup. I forget what there was a saying on that. I added some wine. That was my second accident, because I accidentally added some of your Moscato wine, which is fizzy dessert wine.
Moscato is very sweet. It's not what I would use for cooking. But
no, I didn't.
But I keep my bottle of Moscato next to the stove, because sometimes I like a little tiny glass while I'm cooking.
Yeah. Instead of me grabbing the Chardonnay, I grabbed the Moscato. But I didn't put too much in, and then I added more Chardonnay. And I also put some lemon in, which is not traditional for a chicken noodle soup, but I felt it would counteract the sweetness of the Moscato. But also, I kind of like lemony.
I like lemony soups.
Lemony and chicken is a really good combination. So in the end, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I kind of, if only I had more chicken broth, that would have been perfect. I would have really liked it. So, yeah, I think it was good, and it was a good quick soup. It wasn't hard to make at all. So that's I think the only notable thing. Now, coming up this week, this is a big cooking week.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you actually made some chocolate muffins and stuff like this, but
yeah,
but
granola.
And you made pickles today.
Today I made pickles.
Yes.
Sweet. I made 5 quart jars of sweet and spicy pickles.
We talked about these last summer.
We did.
And these were a recipe we got from one of the Scout friends. And yes, they're awesome, because they're sweet and spicy.
I pickled cucumbers, but also
carrots,
cauliflower, onions.
Cauliflower, onions, and then it's got jalapeno in it.
Some jalapeno and garlic to give it a little bit of punch.
Yep. And you made a pickling spice.
Yeah, I mixed up a pickling spice of my own, with a few additions that make it a bit different.
Yeah, they're really good pickles.
Yeah,
but
I'm really looking. Now we have to sit there and look at them every time we open the fridge for a whole week before we can try them.
By coincidence, a whole week brings us to Easter. We'll be able to open one on Easter.
Yes.
That'd be a nice Easter celebration.
Yes.
So that's good.
That was my plan all along.
Yes, it was your plan all along. That's why you let it all sit in the fridge for that long.
Right. So yeah, this week is a great food week. On Friday, of course, we'll have our hot cross buns, which I like to make with currants and lemon and orange zest and lots of spices, and they're such a fun treat. And I only make them once a year, so the kids always look forward to hot cross buns. So yummy. And our Easter dinner, we've decided to grill a leg of lamb.
If weather permitting.
Weather permitting. If not, we'll do it in the oven.
Right. But we're going to have leg of lamb.
Leg of lamb. And I want to make some Greek potatoes. I've been fussing with this Greek potato recipe for a while now, and I haven't quite figured it out, but I think I'm getting closer. It's a slow roasted, softer recipe, and you cook them in like a mixture of chicken broth and lemon juice and olive oil with lots of oregano and garlic. And they're really, really tasty. It's just that they have a tendency to stick to the pan. And so I'm trying to figure out how to keep them from sticking to the pan so I don't lose half of the potato when I'm trying to scrape them out of the pan.
Right. Now, last time we tried extra oil.
Right. Adding extra oil first, oiling the pan first before I put the potatoes with all the broth mix in. That worked better.
Yeah.
And also to cover them with foil really well so that the stuff doesn't evaporate too soon.
Right. And it keeps the steam in, so it keeps it moist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to do Greek potatoes. Then for vegetables, we haven't decided. It partly depends on what we find in the market. But I'm thinking either some kind of fancy green bean dish, like green beans with pancetta and tomatoes, broccoli with hollandaise sauce, or Brussels sprouts with bacon, or maybe some combination of those.
I need to put pancetta on the shopping list then.
And then I'm also going to do my challah, which I always do for Easter.
Well, it is a holiday. Ah!
I usually make my challah. I make an extra big loaf, and I make it in the shape of braid it in the shape of a cross, which the kids just love.
Do you do a sweet challah too?
I do a sweet bread for breakfast.
Bread. Right. That's right.
Usually I do a filled bread with. I like to mix cream cheese and almond paste.
Yeah.
And I've got a new thing I want to try with the filled bread this time. I've not had great luck with filled breads because they tend to ooze out.
The bread that's oozing. So that's our plan. We'll see how it goes. Next time you'll see how we ended up. So stay tuned.
And of course, we'll for breakfast, in addition to the sweet bread, we will also have
deviled eggs.
Lots of deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs is the one time, like on Easter, is the one time of year when I could eat a dozen eggs. Like you think, eat a dozen eggs in one sitting? That's disgusting. Except when it's deviled eggs, then I could tuck away a dozen.
I love deviled eggs so much.
They're so good. I saw, was it America's Test Kitchen had curried deviled eggs.
I don't know about that. It's just kind of
don't
perfect.
Mess with perfection.
Yeah, don't.
Although I did like the method that they showed, which is interesting for how to perfectly boil eggs.
I usually do them in the Instant Pot, and I find that works really well.
Yeah, this one, it looked interesting, but we'll see. We'll talk about it. I might actually experiment this week. We'll see how it goes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about mostly about what we've been watching, because neither of us has finished a book. You started
I started Quo Vadis, which is a ginormous doorstop of a novel. It's one I didn't actually, I've heard the name.
Yes.
As a sort of famous Christian historical novel.
Of Peter.
But it's not really, I mean, if Peter comes into it, I'm like chapter 15 and he has not showed up yet.
Okay, so maybe that's maybe we'll see.
Anyway, it's a historical novel about early Christian Rome, but it starts off with a girl who is a barbarian princess who's been taken to Rome as tribute. And she has a young, wealthy nobleman fall in love with her and decide he wants to marry her, but she wants nothing to do with him because she is a Christian. And he has the emperor kidnap her from the people who have taken her in and who she considers family. And but then the Christians kidnap her back. This is where I am right now. But the novelist...
As the Rome turns.
The novelist is a Polish novelist. And so this is translated from the Polish. And I cannot remember his name. It's Polish. I'm sorry. I have a hard time with Polish names. But he actually won the Nobel Prize for Literature. So this is a sort of a significant novel, which I did not realize when I dove into it, what I was getting into. But I'm enjoying it so far. It's a little bit more detailed than I expected about the decadence of Rome. And she attends a banquet at Nero's palace. And it doesn't hold a whole lot back about the horrible decadence of Nero's banquet.
Not handing this on to the kids anytime soon. Henryk Sienkiewicz.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. But you've just started it. You're 15 chapters in, but it's a massive book. And so
15 chapters in is not even a quarter, maybe an eighth, a tenth, something like that.
It's like you said, a doorstop. All right. But look, all right, I'll talk about what I've watched, and then you can talk about what you've been watching. So,
okay.
I mentioned I watched the first half of the 2019 movie called Robert the Bruce.
Right.
Which stars every Scottish actor available, and was really good, including the actor who played Robert the Bruce in Braveheart. So he's playing the same actor playing the same character, which I think is actually kind of cool. So I'm just pulling that up now because I don't remember who that was, and while I'm vamping, but the Bruce was played by Angus McFadden.
McFadden?
Fadyen.
I would still say McFadden.
Probably. And Angus McFadden. So which is totally a Scottish name, right?
It doesn't get much more Scottish than that.
So the second half of the movie, I just mentioned that like the Bruce was hardly in the first half. Like he was in it, but not as much as you think. The second half of the movie, he was much more prominent, and it really became a meditation on the nature of kingship.
Interesting.
It was really interesting because the relationship between the king and his people and the expectations of the people of their king, and it's not like I'm the king and therefore you must serve me. He was much more, and I don't know whether it's historically accurate, but this portrayal was, he was much more, he's still kingly, but much more affectionate to the people that took him in. This family takes him in when he's wounded and nurses him back to health. And it's really kind of amazing because this family, all of the adult men in the family died in the king's various wars. The wars between the nobles, the wars against the English king. So they have reason to, in one sense, resent him, but which one or more of them do, but others don't resent him, but they hold him to account. Like, look, we've sacrificed a lot for you. You don't get to run off and not fulfill your obligations. Like you're the king. You have duty to us. It is a very interesting interplay there. So I did like that. There was several moments throughout it, and it had a typically Scottish ending. Let's just say that way.
Okay.
It felt very Scottish the way it ended. That it would end that way. So, in the end, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I would even watch it again.
What was it called?
Robert the Bruce.
Just Robert the Bruce.
Robert the Bruce, 2019 movie. So that was good. And then it was almost like a sequel to Braveheart, I have to say. I mean, they talk about William Wallace, and it just felt kind of sequelish. So it was good. The other thing I watched was another one of these Netflix historical documentaries they got going. I remember I watched this. I was watching that samurai one, the Japanese one, a few weeks ago. I haven't gotten any further with that. I watched another episode. It's not that I don't like it. I got a little sidetracked because this one came out, The Lost Pirate Kingdom. It's called. And
here's the pirates.
This is where the pirates come in, and of course I had to watch it then. And on the one hand, I'm actually learning some things. As long as let's just stipulate that it's accurate in what it's saying. Okay, I think it's accurate. I'm learning stuff about where the pirates came from. The pirates came from the fact that they were privateers, letters of marque when England was at war with Spain. But when they had peace, these privateers needed something to do, so they decided to just keep plundering Spanish ships, and thus became pirates. And then when the British turned on them for violating the terms of the treaty, they turned on the British ships, and so there was the whole thing. But there was a pirate kingdom that essentially grew out of Nassau in Bahamas.
In the Caribbean.
Yeah, that was their capital. And it talks about the key figures. Of course, Blackbeard is mentioned, and various other of the key. I'm trying to remember them. Edward Thatch was Blackbeard. Benjamin Hornigold, Charles Vane, Samuel Bellamy, who actually was on Cape Cod when he started his career, so to speak.
Interesting.
So now, okay, that's all pretty good. The thing I have about it is it's this tendency to take what used to be just straightforward historical drama documentaries, because they have these dramatizations. They have actors, they have ships, CGI ships, and they show the battle and that sort of thing. And they have Derek Jacobi as the narrator, which is really good.
Oh, he's good.
But they kind of they have to sexy it up. Like, so you
mentioned that, I think.
Yeah, they have violence, more violence, and blood spraying sort of thing, but not like gore, but I'd say PG-13 levels. But they also have a few bits and pieces of the women mostly being seen partially unclothed up top. You know what I mean? And it's like, why are you doing this? Can we just have a straightforward? Like, I know why they're doing this, because they're trying to get an audience. They're taking historical documentaries like you used to get on PBS, and that what History Channel then turned up a notch, they're turning up 3 more notches. And that's what they're doing. Then they figured that's just how they're going to get more people to watch on Netflix. I suppose it feels a little unnecessary. I kind of wish they would put more of that into let's dramatize more of this. Like, I want more of the historical dramatizations.
Right.
But, because pirates and the kids can't watch it. And that's the problem. That's what kind of annoys me.
Right.
All right. So that's what I've been watching. And so you've got a couple of things you wanted to talk about that you've watched.
Yeah. I keeping on my Marvel movie kick.
Yes.
Marvel
you're
Cinematic
working
Universe.
your way through MCU.
I watched Captain America: Winter Soldier. I get the title right.
Winter Soldier, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Winter Soldier. So it's the second Captain America movie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not the biggest MCU fan. I'm trying. I liked it. It kind of felt like it existed to move the plot forward one click.
Well, and that's the thing is, I'm not sure I understand the problem.
Not necessarily a problem. I mean, I felt like there wasn't a gripping. I don't know. It's not. I don't know if it would be.
There wasn't a character arc.
I don't know if it would work as a standalone movie. I think is what I guess what I'm saying. And it's not intended to. I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's very few of the MCU movies that could stand alone.
I know.
Well, no. Let me backtrack. Like, the first Iron Man could stand alone. The first Thor could stand alone. The first Captain America could stand alone. But once you get
further in, right? I mean, it feels like I said, like it feels like a chapter in a book. Like,
yes, and that's the MCU,
right? So it's like Captain Marvel really could stand alone, like as a sort of origin story superhero movie,
right?
It works. It's just like it's a complete thing in and of itself. You could go in knowing nothing about any of the MCU, watch it, go okay, and then you're done. Whereas Winter Soldier feels like it's sort of like the Two Towers. Like,
it's the middle book in the trilogy.
It's the middle book in the trilogy, and so there, by the end of it, you kind of felt like there wasn't that much resolution. Like,
right? Like,
it leaves off with they've dissolved S.H.I.E.L.D. because it was totally infiltrated
Spoilers.
by Hydra.
I'm just kidding. It's a 5-year-old movie or more.
So S.H.I.E.L.D.'s dissolved. Then
Hydra is triumphant.
The Winter Soldier has been defeated, but not
eliminated.
Not eliminated.
Yeah.
So he's still out there, and so you're kind of left with just sort of this like nothing is resolved.
Yeah.
I mean, they sort of resolved the like Nick Fury arc a little bit, but there's still there's a lot of dangling questions.
Yeah, Nick Fury's not resolved yet. So
not like the he faked his own death and then they found out that he wasn't really dead. Like that right. Sort of that arc got resolved.
Yeah.
To an extent, but I'm left with lots of questions, and I know what it's supposed to make me do is go watch the next movie, which is going to work because now I'm like, okay, there's all these dangling things.
Because I'm trying to remember which is next. Is it Age of Ultron or?
I have no idea.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up or it could be because there's also. Did you watch the second Iron Man?
See, now that was actually I think where I left off because I can't remember if I've watched the second Iron Man or not. I know I watched the first one, but it's been a long time since I watched it, and I don't know if I want to watch. I mean, like both of them again.
Well, there's also the third Iron Man, which you technically don't need to watch. Like you could. I could tell you what you need to know about the third Iron Man in order to not be lost when you get to the other movies. In fact, you probably it wouldn't even faze you. But did you see Doctor Strange?
I have not seen Doctor Strange yet.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm actually looking forward to.
Yeah. I want to watch that with you because I enjoyed that, and I've only seen that the once. So
I mean, I have to say that there are some movies that I'm looking forward to more than others.
This Ant-Man.
That just doesn't grab me. Maybe it's because I don't know anything about Ant-Man, but I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever.
He's kind of important in the Endgame, the most recent movie, but you probably should watch.
See, this is the whole should thing.
Yeah, but it's still good. It's we'll see. Anyway, Thor. You've seen Thor: Dark World, not Dark World. Thor.
I've seen the first Thor and I've seen Ragnarok.
Okay, right.
Because I totally did not watch the Thor movies in order.
Yeah, don't watch Dark World. If anything, if you like, I hardly remember anything about it, so it's not all that important.
Like you can skip it.
Yeah, it's most people agree it's the worst of the MCU movies. Chris Eccleston is in it. Christopher Eccleston as a alien. You don't recognize him.
Okay,
but yeah. So yeah.
Then the other thing I watched this week was YouTube, because I'm a YouTube junkie. What can I say?
Well, yeah, me too.
So Jimmy Akin on his Facebook page linked to and mentioned this video with this curator from the British Museum whose name is Irving Finkel. Finkel.
Singular.
Okay. Irving Finkel. And Jimmy linked to a video of him talking about Sumerian ghosts.
Sumerian ghost stories.
Ghost stories.
Yeah.
The first ghost stories, it's called. And it is this delightful lecture. It's sort of, it's got some images in it that might be a little bit scary for some kids. Like, I'm a little bit concerned about our kids. Like, it's got clips not of only Sumerian ghost stories, but it's got like stills from The Exorcist and there's like one scene in particular that's about this demon that visits women in childbirth. And it's a little graphic, a little bit detailed. But he is a delightful storyteller. He is this like Santa Claus looking man with this long white beard and fluffy white hair. And
he's basically Jimmy in 20 years.
Yeah. And he has this delightful mannerism. He's just charming. He is charming elderly British gentleman, and he has spent his entire life translating ancient Mesopotamian texts. He is like one of the world's leading experts on cuneiform tablets. And so he has a lifetime experience working with this. And he tells some charming stories about being a 19-year-old learning this stuff for the first time. And he's basically been there throughout all. And evidently this is going along with the British Museum exhibit that they're doing of cuneiform tablets and the Library of Nineveh. And so I watched that. I watched the one that Jimmy linked to about Sumerian ghost stories. And then I watched another one that he did that was like a live Zoom thing that they did at New Year's that was sort of going over, just sort of talking about the exhibit that they're doing. And it was just like slide after slide after slide of cuneiform tablet. And yet he managed to make it. It was almost like a survey of the interesting stuff in the exhibit. He managed to make it absolutely riveting. An hour of just looking at slides of cuneiform tablets, which sounds utterly thrilling, but really it was great. And then YouTube's suggested links showed me a video that he'd done. Evidently, one of his pet projects that's completely divorced from the British Museum and cuneiform tablets is he started a foundation which collects diaries to keep them from being thrown away. This is sort of a logical thing for
it's a historical project.
Right. For an archivist, and he's an archivist who has worked on his entire life on this beautiful collection of ancient documents. And a lot of the cuneiform tablets in the Library of Nineveh were sort of mundane, everyday stuff. They weren't all literature. There's a lot of like business and
remember the famous one of the guy complaining about a bad transaction he had at a store or with a merchant.
Right. And so evidently somehow Irving Finkel had somebody give him this box full of diaries, just like ordinary everyday people's diaries. And he kept them around for a while. He sort of poked at them and read them. And then one day it dawned on him, there's a bunch of these out there and people don't know what to do with them and they're throwing them away. And so he started a foundation and they will accept any diary.
Well, this is why what's important for history, to understand history and to understand a culture, is not just the important documents, the Magna Cartas and constitutions and big important documents. What's important for understanding a culture is the stuff that we don't have for a lot of places and times is what was it like to live that life as a normal, regular, everyday person in that culture.
Exactly. And the details that people will record in a diary are sometimes things that nobody would record or even think of recording anywhere else. And he talks about how one of the rules that he set up was that they are not allowed to create rules. There is no guidelines for, well, this is important and this is not. We'll accept this, but not this. No, they take anything, everything, even the most boring, the most mundane diaries. He spends an hour talking about like the various diaries in this collection. And it's sort of a pitch. Like, if you know anybody who's throwing out diaries, this is where they can bring them instead of throwing them into the trash. But there's again, he's very charming, and I really like the view of history that he presents. I think it would be really good for kids to see too, in terms of just talking about like the importance of like what history is, where it comes from. There might be a few references to slightly more adult relationship topics,
like adultery or something,
or just like, I think he talked about like some diaries of like, you know, boys writing about girls and girls writing about boys and that sort of thing. I don't think there was anything that was
nothing prurient
or inappropriate. I don't think. It wasn't paying attention that hard. Anyway, it was great. So I watched 3 hours of Irving Finkel this week, and I want to go back and watch more. I really loved his videos.
It's fun when you find a particular person who really speaks to you in a way, you know, in their YouTube channel or whatnot. Like this person you'd never heard of before, who never entered into your life until now, and suddenly like this YouTube channel of this Simon Bloke in the Woods, who's this British carpenter who enjoys camping, and he takes you along on his camping trips with his videos, and I find them relaxing and meditative, and also an interesting look into British, you know, camping and British culture and stuff. I love these little channels.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is great because there's so much random stuff out there.
I mean,
you can get lost in it, which is why I really like the
recommendations
from friends, like people who say, hey, I watched this and it's interesting, which is why I like to pass them along, because you would never stumble upon this.
Not in the vast stream of YouTube, right.
And yet there's a lot of really good quality, like intellectual stuff out there. It's not all just goofy. It's not all goofy, and it's not all millennials
vapid. And Gen Y dancing in front of their
and I think
screen.
Especially this last year of
no offense to millennials and Gen Y,
but this last year of pandemic lockdown, especially, I think a lot more institutions have been putting content online that this would normally have been lectures at the British Museum. I think, I'm not even sure if they would have ended up on YouTube. I didn't dig deeply, but would this content have even been on YouTube if it hadn't been for the pandemic?
If nothing else, this last year has really opened the eyes of a lot of people and organizations to the possibilities for getting content to people when they can't come to you.
And also, yeah, people who would never have been able to. Like, I'm on the other side of the Atlantic. I'd never be able to go to lectures at the British Museum.
Right.
And yet, I'm fascinated. I've been to the British Museum long ago when I was young.
Would Patrick Stewart have done a project of reading a Shakespeare sonnet every day, a different Shakespeare sonnet every day? No, probably not. You know,
because he's busy, and
right.
But you know,
but
there's something
not for a while.
Right, there's something to be said about pandemic lockdown, which is not to say that.
I mean, there were a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, but there's a silver lining in that cloud. Yes.
It's good to sometimes look at the silver linings and appreciate them for what they are, which doesn't detract from the negatives. Just, you know.
Speaking of silver linings, moving on to our last topic. It is Palm Sunday as we record this, and this Sunday, they've actually loosened up restrictions a little bit in Massachusetts and the Boston Archdiocese, where they could accommodate more people in the pews. So this week we had, instead of every third pew holding people, we had every other pew, which I think he said it gave them 14 more pews that they could use.
I think they said 14 instead of 10.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. I was trying to get to the kids to the pew, so I wasn't listening.
But there were more people at Mass, which was nice. It was good to see more people there. It didn't feel quite so empty. We had a lovely procession. They had the altar server and
Father blessed the palms at the entrance to the church, and then they
handed them out with gloves so that everybody wasn't reaching into the communal basket of palms and getting their mitts all over them.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. The music selection was lovely.
And hey, speaking of silver linings, because I was wearing a mask, Anthony couldn't stick the palm up my nose like he usually does.
There is that.
He's waving the thing around. I mean, you get it in your eye and your ear, but not up your nose. So that was good.
The kids who were sitting next to me were doing great with the palms.
Oh, yes. Well, you had the bigger kids, but also
I had Lucy.
Oh, that's right. You did have Lucy. Well, Anthony's...
Her palm was mostly going down towards the floor. I was more doing the don't drag your palm across the floor, which was a much better problem to have.
Right. Well, he's Mr. Fidget. He needs to do something with his hands. Anyway, that's not the important thing.
I had the child with a toothache.
Right.
Poor Ben. His tooth was loose and it was really hurting during mass, and so he was kind of moaning a bit
because he had nothing to think about except her tooth.
His poor tooth.
I'm like, yeah, hey buddy, while your tooth is hurting, Jesus is getting crucified on the cross. So pay attention to that. It's a good thing I wasn't sitting next to him.
Yes, it probably was. That was a terribly sympathetic way of putting it.
Offer it up, boy.
I really liked what Father Michael said during his homily, which he kind of went over the Holy Week liturgies and talked a little bit about all of them and sort of the grand sweep of it and how they fit into the church year and the gospel. But what really grabbed my attention was he was talking about, he said, take your palms home and make crosses out of them, which a lot of people do, but I was not a palm cross maker when I was younger, so it's sort of a new thing to me. And he said, tuck them away behind your crucifix or a holy picture and, keep them around. And he said, live with it for a year. This is your cross. And then next year, for Holy Week, before Ash Wednesday, you will bring this cross back and we'll burn it and make ashes, but you'll bring this cross back and it will be dry and brittle and sharp, and it will be your personal cross, your cross that you've carried and lived with for an entire year. And there was something that was really striking about that. I'd never really thought of it in that way. This is the cross that you bring triumphantly home after Palm Sunday with this kind of rush of feeling, and you make your palms into crosses. I've got a pile of them here, and I've been fidgeting with them while we've been recording. I've actually made a couple of crosses. And then you stick them, and you kind of forget about them, and they get all dry and brittle and falling apart and not terribly lovely. And there's a really nice little metaphor there.
It is interesting. I do like that idea. You begin Easter, because essentially by next Sunday we begin Easter. It's new, it's fresh, we have a new beginning through Holy Week, but by the time we get to the next beginning of Lent, when we need to have that metanoia, the change, we need to slough off the old, like a cicada shedding its old shell and begin anew, and that we bring that old brittle husk of ourselves,
right?
Like that old brittle
Lent is
cross.
This renewal, and so we have this sort of death and rebirth and renewal. And I had never thought of the palms in that way before.
Yeah, they do symbolize it because they are fresh and new now, and a year at Ash Wednesday they will be dry and brittle and old. And
then we get our heads smeared with a cross made of those dry, brittle palms that have been all burnt up.
We become dust. And we are reborn, which is like life. We start off fresh and new, a little stinky maybe. We go through life. We get old and brittle and dry. We die. We return to dust. But we are reborn anew. To dust we shall return. From dust you came. The church, in her wisdom, has offered us this imagery, and I think it's beautiful. And I'm glad that Father Michael reminded us of it. So awesome. With that, I do want to finish up. And of course, we always want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including Isaac K., Bennett G., Tara H., Francis B., and Carla K. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue raising the bets in all the shows at StarQuest. Now's a great time to become a StarQuest patron thanks to a generous gift from a StarQuest supporter. When you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor to support all our shows, including this one, making your gift go even further. We're very close to reaching our goal of $2,000 in new monthly pledges. I mean, we are within striking distance. We could even maybe reach this by Easter with a few extra guests. So, and the reason that's important is that those new monthly pledges are going to help us do some new things, including we have a new show that we're working on, which is I'm really excited about. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and so it will be really great to get that going. We also need to redo our website because it's kind of creaky and old and it looks old, so we need to get that updated, and so with your help we can do that. So won't you help us close the gap? If you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, now's the time. Visit sqpn.com/give today. So we'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback. You can do that by commenting at sqpn.com/bets, that's BETTS, or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to bets@sqpn.com. And we'll have links from our discussion to all the things we mentioned in our show notes at sqpn.com. We really appreciate it when you write a review of the show at Apple Podcasts and share the podcast with your friends. That helps us grow our community of listeners. Until next time, I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest, and have a great and blessed Holy Week.